So really this resource draws on my experience of working with churches around the world as they have engaged with peace processes and journeys of healing. So a large part of that has come from South Sudan and Mozambique, and working with some of the indigenous peoples in what is now known as Canada and what is now known as Australia. And then there's a smattering of anecdotes and experiences from United Nations negotiations. And really importantly, there's lots of variety in what you'll read. Some of it is deeply personal encounters, some of it is from my own life and my experience, and some of it is national level peacemaking and mediation. And part of what the resource is trying to draw out is that a lot of what makes for peace at a national level is also what makes for peace in our everyday relationships with friends, with families, colleagues, with the person next door, between our communities. Because God is the big author of peace. And what we see in Jesus in the Gospels are certain habits of peacemaking that he brings into all of his relationships that can be developed within us as we walk with him. So there's lots that can apply across the whole diversity of situations that you might find yourselves in and that your churches might find themselves in. And I've called the devotional Wild Paths of Peace because I think sometimes conflict and division can feel a bit like a wilderness. Particularly at the moment, when you look at your headlines, it can be really easy to feel angry and overwhelmed at the state of our world. And sometimes when you're living through a conflict or a division or a silence or a misunderstanding, it might be very small, but it can feel like desolation. It can feel like a real sense of absence and lament. And I think God can handle all of those feelings and is real about that, but also gives us paths of peace that we can find across the wilderness of conflict. They're paths that enable us to experience his peace and to shine that into the lives around us. And it's called a wild path because very often those paths aren't the paths that other people are treading. They might have elements of risk and resistance in them, but they also have riches of grace and beauty and things that bring us a refreshed perspective that we just wouldn't have if we didn't walk them. So this resource is about trying to explore how we might do that, inspired by people who have gone before us, and to think how do we apply some of what Jesus is showing us into our lives. We start in the hope of peacemaking. It's really important as we're looking out across this wilderness to know where we're headed so that we can find the right paths. So this is about the hope ultimately of our peace with God, but also about the hope that we've seen when peace does break in personal and in national situations. Then we move on to look at the faith that keeps us going along the paths. When it's not clear which way we're going, when we feel unsettled or set back, there are resources of faith that we can draw on to keep us going in the right direction. Then we move on to look at the love that makes it worthwhile. Love has this incredible ability to take any moment and transform it with depth and with meaning and with colour. And when you're in the midst of conflict and division, when you're in that wilderness, it really is the love of those around you and the love of God that makes things worthwhile. And then we finish in Holy Week by looking at the path of peace that Jesus trod on his way to the cross through his resurrection, a path that is more than any of us could ever take, and yet also opens up new paths for us, that really shows us what is possible in our relationship with God.